Hi, I'm Red, and this is a quick overview of the Rookery. Kairos has two abilities that are important for healers. First is called Crashing Thunder. It's an AoE circle that appears around every group member and explodes for damage. The boss casts this 2 times in a row, 15 seconds apart, so you have plenty of time to heal everyone up as long as they can survive the hit. The second ability is called Lightning Torrent. When the boss reaches 100 energy, he travels to the center and shoots lasers in a circle, so he rotates. This is an AoE mechanic that requires movement. It occurs once every minute exactly, and you should see it 3 or 4 times during the encounter. I would use my big healing cooldowns for this section of the fight. The ability cast sequence is Crashing Thunder, Lightning Torrent, then 2 Crashing Thunder, Lightning Torrent, then 2 Crashing Thunder, Lightning Torrent, and so forth. Stormguard Gorin. This is an attrition fight that you should stack in or close to melee for. There are 3 main abilities for healers to watch out for. First is called Crush Reality. The boss jumps to a random player, dealing big instant damage to all players in the party. When he lands, he creates a black zone on the ground. It is your job as a healer to stand close to the wall or close to a puddle so that if you are targeted, it doesn't mess up the whole floor. These casts are 15 seconds apart. The second ability is a very complicated magic debuff called Chaotic Corruption. It's basically a 20-second dot that jumps around every 5 seconds. So it's going to affect 4 different people for 5 seconds at a time. And when the debuff does jump, it targets the nearest player, so you can game who it goes on to next. Upon expiration, or when the debuff jumps, it applies Chaotic Vulnerability, which doubles the amount of damage that Corruption does. If a player ever has both Chaotic Vulnerability and Corruption, you probably need to give them an external or they'll die. To handle this as a healer, I think you should try to make sure you're the closest member to the debuffed player so that you get it to jump to you at least once. And then try to pass it to a ranged player because they probably won't be helping uh, spread the debuff around. Because you really want it to go on on 4 different players in order to reduce the total amount of damage. So if you take one of the 4 debuffs every time corruption is out, it's a lot less likely that another party member is going to get more than one debuff. And that avoids the chaotic corruption, or chaotic vulnerability rather. The third ability is called Dark Gravity. The boss sucks players towards him for 6 seconds, dealing periodic damage. Try to plan your healing cooldowns around this, and it's cast around every 50 seconds. The ability cast sequence is 2 Crush Realities followed by 1 Dark Gravity Pull-in. Voidstone Monstrosity. To break down this fight, the boss starts with a 20% HP shield. I will be calling this the mechanics phase. When the shield is removed from the boss, there's a burn phase for 20 seconds when you can actually deal damage to the boss and you get a 100% damage buff. The boss timers are dependent upon how much damage your team deals, so the lower your team's damage, the longer the mechanics phase will be, and the more difficult the overlaps are going to be to heal. Okay, with that out of the way, there are 3 responsibilities for the healer. 4 if you count the tank frontal, but that's dodgeable by the tank, so I didn't include it. First ability is a debuff called Unstable Corruption, and it's applied to 2 players. The debuff prefers DPS and healers. When it is dispelled, it leaves a puddle on the ground, so you need to be careful not to instant dispel melee players because the puddle will block part of the room. Let your DPS run away from the boss prior to dispelling. This ability occurs roughly every 20 seconds during the mechanic phase. To handle this ability, plan to instant dispel a ranged player because they should be planning their position ahead of time. You want to get your dispel off cooldown as soon as possible so that you can remove the second debuff in a timely manner. If you get the debuff as a healer, I would recommend dispelling someone else first because the room is so big you might not be in range of them in 8 seconds, and you're always in range of yourself. If this is a push key for you, having a Warlock DPS or a Monk DPS is helpful because they can dispel magic. The second ability for healers is called Null Upheaval. It does group-wide damage and knocks all players back. It also spawns Seeping Fragments, which are these spikes that you need to deal with later. Try to locate the spikes when Null Upheaval is cast so that you're ready to break them when the next mechanic comes. Null Upheaval is a challenge because it will knock you out of range when you're trying to dispel. That's why you should allocate your cooldowns for this mechanic. Null upheaval can occur 2 times in a single mechanics phase, and they're about 25 seconds apart. So it's important for you to not blow all your cooldowns on the first one of the phase, because the second one is a much more challenging overlap. The third mechanic healers have to deal with is called Storm Rider's Charge, and it's used to break the spikes that come out of the ground before they turn into adds. To handle this, the boss puts a circle around all 4 non-tank players at the same time. Players have to run to a spike on the ground so that it's in the circle when the Storm Rider's charge detonates. This will destroy the spike and prevent an ad from spawning. The debuff is 9 seconds long, so you have a little bit of time to spread out and make sure that you're not overlapping with another player on the same spike. This can occur close to the spell mechanic, making it difficult to stay in range of players. The last thing healers need to worry about is the burn phase. When you break the shield, the boss takes double damage for 20 seconds, so it's important for healers to deal damage during this time. Hardest overlap is the yellow highlight, and all 3 mechanics occur within 10 seconds of each other. A good rule of thumb is probably if you ever get a second knockback in the mechanics phase, you should use a big cooldown.